All right, boom, guys. We're back with the Chrome Corner, UFC 276. Chrome and Charlie T. Charlie as the guest. Introduce yourself. What's up, man?
Memphis State.
Got the Memphis State jersey on. Always repping.
Always repping Memphis. Dude.
Always throwing Memphis up. Yeah.
Hey, shout out before we start the Elvis movie. Badass. Speaking of Memphis, gotta see it.
I haven't seen it yet, man. So it is definitely worth it.
It's pretty sweet.
UFC 276, we start from the bottom of the card, as we always do. Charlie's the guest. He gets to pick first. This first fight is Pedro Munoz versus Sean O'Malley. Pedro is ranked number 9. O'Malley's ranked number 13. Munoz is coming off of a loss, but as you just heard, he's ranked higher than O'Malley, so it's still a step up for O'Malley. O'Malley is a heavy favorite at negative 295. So with all that being said, Charlie, what you got, bro?
Okay, so we were talking about this before we came on. I was mentioning I don't like this fight for O'Malley.
Mm-hmm.
Not stylistically. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal stylistically because the guy's got reach on just about everybody. I believe he's got like a 72, 73-inch reach, and Munoz is like in the mid-60s. So there, I mean, I don't see a problem with him getting inside on Munoz and landing a few. But Munoz has lost 4 of his last 5 fights. Keep in mind, Aljo, Frankie Edgar, Jose Aldo, and Dominic Cruz. Obviously, they're expecting O'Malley to win.
Right.
But, I mean, it's just, what does he gain from winning this fight? Because he's fighting a guy who's clearly on the decline in his UFC career. Stylistically, I think he matches up really well with Munoz. Reach-wise, I think he's going to control the pace of the fight. I think he's going to land a lot of shots. As you know, Munoz is not susceptible. I mean, he's very susceptible to taking a punch. He should have been knocked out in the Garbrandt fight in the first round, but somehow he rallied. And then I think O'Malley wins by decision. But honestly, I don't know. Munoz has some dangerous hands. He can knock someone out. So O'Malley's got a lot to lose, but I'm taking him by decision.
Okay, O'Malley by decision. I think that when you spoke about what is there to gain for O'Malley in this, I think it's purely a visual thing. Like, he's ranked number 13, Munoz is ranked number 9, so visually it looks like a step up in competition for him. And you could argue for different reasons it is. I mean, Munoz has faced better competition than anyone O'Malley has faced yet, but he's also lost a lot lately, like you said. Garbrandt might be his most noteworthy win, it definitely is recently because he's on this streak of losing. But I don't see there being much of a chance that he beats O'Malley outside of his grittiness. Like you said, you know, he is a very gritty dude. He seems to pull things out when he gets rocked, it's always interesting because it means the more someone has to extend themselves to try to knock him out, the more they're susceptible to getting a freak shot come back at him. I think if O'Malley keeps his cool, which we've pretty much seen him do in every fight for the most part, if he keeps his cool and stays out of that really close range, I think he has no problem. What's going to happen if someone really, really invests to kicking that calf again? Because people have tried to, but they haven't really been successful. So we gotta see that again before we really know. But, I mean, he's such a shorter fighter, and his limbs are shorter than O'Malley. It'd be hard for him to even get to that range to where he can just kick the hell out of that leg like that. So we'll see. But I've got O'Malley. I think I'm going to go with, since you went decision, I'll just go third round TKO O'Malley.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll move on to the next fight. We've got Brian Barberena versus Robbie Lawler. Lawler is 40 years old at this point. He's getting up there. His last fight was a very notable one because it was a big name in Nick Diaz, but I think that both guys looked terrible in the fight, in my opinion. They both looked their age. You know, you got to respect, especially a Lawler, in what he's done in the sport. To me with this pick, and not gonna lie, I don't have either name circled. I could just see this going either way because of Lawler's age. You never know when a guy's really declining, and since he looked so bad in the last fight, it makes me question picking him. But overall, as a fighter, I think he's better than Barberena when it comes to skills. Man, I'm going to go Barberena just because his youth that he has on him. He's 33. I would take Robbie for sure.
Can I say out loud what you're thinking?
What?
How the fuck is this fight on the main card? This is a preliminary card fight. I mean, I almost don't want to pick a winner because I honestly don't care who wins this fight.
Yeah.
Obviously, Waffler's out there saying, "Oh, Nick Diaz fight that re-energized me. I'm excited again." I'm like, dude, like, how did that pop? Excited. I mean, Nick Diaz hadn't fought in, like 6 years? That being said, I'm just going to take Robbie Lawler by decision just because I don't think much of Barberena. I've never been impressed with the fighting.
We'll move on to the third fight. This one is a super interesting fight, man. I'm really, really excited for this one because I have no clue how it's going to go. We've got Pereira versus Strickland. Strickland's coming in ranked as number 14. Pereira's not ranked yet, but if you're not super familiar with the political landscape of the UFC right now, Pereira previously beat the champ, but in kickboxing, he did it twice before Adesanya was in the UFC, so he has a little bit of a storyline there that they can build up for if he does win this fight, go fight for the title next. That's why he kind of is jumping the line a little bit. I mean, it's still weird to me that we're talking about either one of these guys getting the next title fight when Strickland is 14 and Pereira's not ranked. And that shows you how much Adesanya's run through the division, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but at the same time, I think Strickland's rated too low. I mean, he's a really impressive. I think he's on like a 7-fight win streak.
Mm-hmm. And talk shit, too.
Yeah, I mean, he decimated Brendan Allen. He ran through Uriah Hall. Those are good fighters. They're not, ranked guys, but they're really good fighters. Pereira's a really exciting fighter. I actually went back and watched some of his kickboxing fights.
Mm-hmm, so did I.
Really quick. He has great kicks, great fast punches.
Great knees.
Yeah. I mean, he started off his UFC career with a knockout. Yeah, I think it was his debut. But honestly, dude, I haven't seen a lot out of him. I think his striking is world class, though. He is a dangerous guy with his kicks and his punches. This one's tough though, man. I don't know. I really like Strickland. I think his ability, his stamina, and how he takes a lot of fights to decision, I think that factors into this. I think if Pereira catches him, that's how he beats Strickland. He knocks him out. But
yeah,
I see this fight going Strickland by decision. I think he's on a roll right now. I think if this fight happens again in 2 years or 3 years after Pereira's had like 5 or 6 more fights in the octagon, I think he beats Strickland pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm taking Strickland based off that.
Like you said, Pereira's powerful. He's more powerful than Strickland, I think. Strickland's not known as being a power guy. One thing I noticed in Pereira's fights, it kind of surprised me because he's a pretty long guy, but he likes to throw knees so much and some uppercuts that he doesn't stay at range like an Adesanya does as much as you would think he does. And so I think it's going to play into Strickland's hands that he tries to come inside because Strickland he's jab heavy. If he can keep him on the outside, I think it's going to disrupt a little bit of Pereira's game, which sounds weird because he's a kickboxer. So maybe he adapts and maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's just what I see when he fights. And Strickland also, he keeps a weird guard to me. His arms stay really tight in.
They do.
So head kicks might be a thing.
Like I said, dude, if Pereira knocks him out, I wouldn't be surprised because he's got, he's light and fast striker.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's gonna be a good and a bad thing. So like that guard I'm talking about, like it's enclosed. Pereira could throw a head kick around that and maybe catch him because he's so in here that it wraps around.
Mm-hmm.
And a kickboxer's gonna probably see that. But I also think that those knees he likes to throw up the middle, he's gonna be good at blocking them with a close inside guard like that. And him keeping his hands in so tight, his elbows are low. Those are going to block the outside body knees that Pereira might throw. But anyways, that's just a few things I saw. I'm not a tactician when it comes to striking. It's just what I see as a fan. But
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Strickland, just like you did. I'm going to go decision. I think it's a unanimous decision because I think he just outpoints him. I think his jab is a huge part of this, and I think he also goes for at least one takedown, and that might be what wins him one of the rounds. Now onto the co-main event of the night. We're getting into the championship fights. We've got a trilogy, though 2 of the fights have been won by the same person. Arguably, the second fight was a close one. People have said, I've seen people say that it went a different way. I've seen people say that the judges were correct. But we've got Alexander Volkanovski as the champ coming in at a negative 200 favorite. And then we've got Max Holloway, ranked number 1, coming in as the previous champ before Volkanovski. And Holloway and Volk are both known as 2 of the greatest, if not the greatest, featherweights of all time. So, you know, in a lot of people's eyes, this may kind of decide that argument, at least between the 2, who's the one that ranks higher. But I think that Holloway won the last fight. I think that you said you agreed with me, and then
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then
he was robbed last fight. He definitely won.
yeah, I think he won for sure. In the first fight, I think it was clear Volk won. So in my eyes, they're 1-1. And really, that's what I think it is. And so I think this is a great trilogy. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna go with Holloway. I really, really can see either guy winning this because they're both so good. And that last fight was close, even though I think Holloway won. I think both guys have improved since that last fight, but I think that Holloway's had a little bit tougher competition. I think that they both clearly beat the crap out of what's his name, the young guy with the braids.
Brian Ortega.
Yeah, so they both clearly dominated Brian Ortega.
Ooh,
bad.
Man, I disagree there, man. Brian Ortega, there were a few times he almost submitted Volkanovski in that fight because he had him bad.
Absolutely.
I don't know how Volkov got out of that.
Yeah, so let me put it like this. So outside of those moments, he had some moments where he could have won the fight, which you don't that's usually not the case when someone dominates another person, but outside of those moments, I think he was pretty much dominated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see that fight. And then Holloway, it was just bad. He just beat him up the whole time. And then I think Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez and Calvin Kattar, I think was a little bit 2 better fighters than Volkanovski fighting the Korean Zombie. But anyways, so I think Holloway's a little bit fresher as far as having some tough competition. I think it's going to be a really close fight. I think it comes down to one person winning 3 rounds over 2. I don't think either guy's going to quit or get a submission because they both like to stand up, but I'm going to go Holloway. Oh, man. Split decision. I think it's a great fight.
Well, here's the thing. So, I feel like Volkanovski has evolved even further as a striker since the first and even second meeting against Max.
I agree.
I think Max did beat him that second time. I think he did get robbed. But we learned in the Ortega fight where Volkanovski's weaknesses are. He's very susceptible to submissions. He's a tough bastard, though. The fact that he held on against Ortega.
Yep.
But the thing is, dude, we saw that Korean Zombie fight. He picked him apart for 4 rounds. Literally was beating the dog shit out of him.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even close. And he felt so bad he wanted the ref to stop the fight. Like, he was scared to kill him. I've never seen somebody just get dismantled like that before. Volkanovski is so dangerous with his striking. I'm taking him. I think he knocks Max out this time. I'm going to go 4th round knockout. And the reason why I'm saying that is Max is a top fighter in that division, of course. He's former champion. I just think he gave his best in that second fight against Volkanovski, and I don't think he performs anywhere close to that again. I think he shows up. I think it plays out more than the first one.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah, because Max had the perfect game plan last fight, but like I said, he got robbed. It's not going to happen twice with Volkanovski. He's too smart of a fighter, too good of a striker. Yeah, Max has like a 5-inch reach advantage on him, but that doesn't matter because he just keeps pushing forward. I mean, if he's able to avoid, heavy strikes from Max, and Max isn't a threat on the ground. He's not going to submit you. So Volkanovski, I feel like, can be a little more aggressive when it comes to pushing the pace forward. And man, Max isn't going to have an answer for that. I love Max, but that's just the way I see it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this on this one, and we don't always ask this question. It might be something we could add to the show a little more, actually. But do you want Volkanovski to win or want Holloway to win as a fan?
I want Max to win. I love Max.
Yeah.
I mean,
Same.
Volkanovski is a great fighter. He comes off as kind of a tool sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like the way on Ultimate Fighter, he just kept shit talking Ortega. I don't really like that.
Yeah.
But I just think he's the best, 145er in the world. I don't think Max is going to come anywhere close to what he did last fight. I just don't see it.
All right, I feel
like Max's undoing was that Dustin Poirier fight. He went up to 155 because he kind of exposed himself as someone who can take some shots.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dustin was lighting him up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's interesting. Yeah, that's some fights you see like that where someone gets beat up pretty bad. It takes something out of them. You definitely see that in fighting. So you've got Volk, I've got Holloway, I've got split decision. I think it's another fight similar to the second one. You've got Volk knockout in the 4th round, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, on to the main event of the night. We've got Israel Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier. Adesanya is the heaviest favorite on the card. Rightfully so. He's defended the title for a while. He's a negative 475 favorite as the champ, and Jared Cannonier is ranked number 2 currently. And let's see. We are to you with this pick. Who do you got, man? And tell me why.
You see me yawning? You know why I'm yawning? Because this is going to be another Izzy fight.
A snooze fest, you think?
A snooze fest. You know why it's a snooze fest?
Uh-huh.
Because he keeps getting favorable matchups every single time. It's no fault of his. He's just better than them. But do we all forget when he fought Jan? Remember that? When he fought Blachowicz? What did Blachowicz do?
Took him down?
Took him down, controlled him.
Yeah.
Didn't relent. Do we really think Jared's going to do that? He has 0 submissions in the UFC. He has a lot of knockouts, but he's fighting one of the best strikers in the world.
Right.
So when your advantage is striking, you're going up against a guy who's just way better at it. So where does he have an advantage in this fight? Because I'm not seeing it. He's around, I think he's 3 inches shorter reach-wise. And we all know that Adesanya can strike from outside. He can make up that reach. He's got an 80-inch reach. He can close the distance. Adesanya controls the pace. He lands more significant strikes. I don't think he breaks much of a sweat. But I do think it goes to decision because he has not been in the last two fights, or even the fight against Romero. He didn't look like he had the urgency to try to knock them out. So I think he just, gets past the first or second round, puts some significant damage on, and then cruises the rest of the way. So, is he by decision? Is Rael?
I'm going to go with Adesanya as well. No surprise there. To your points, he's too long, he's too fast. I think that he plays it. The only thing I think differently than you is I think he plays it kind of safe the first two rounds, and then I think he gets in a rhythm and he picks him apart for the last three, and then he maybe plays a little safe in the fifth because by the fifth, Cannonier is going to be trying to swing for the fences probably. So I think I see it going that way. I see it being a unanimous decision for Adesanya. I think that Adesanya, although it's not fun for us to watch, he knows that his longevity in this game could depend on how many shots he takes. He's already had a long kickboxing career where he took a lot of shots. He doesn't want to get injuries or get a flash knockout from some freak accident and lose the belt and all the money he's making. He's making the most money in the UFC outside of Conor McGregor. I think that he knows that, and so he's going to continue to play it safe until he has to go to war. He might have to go to war with like a Pereira or somebody if they are good enough stand-up like he is. But other than that, he cruises, like you said. So I've got him unanimous decision.
Yeah, this main event, the real main event was Spence, Volkov, and Holloway, just because their last fight was so close.
I do want to, before we wrap things up, kind of give a little bit of a shout-out to Lucas Brennan. So my jiu-jitsu coach is Chris Brennan, his dad, former UFC fighter, fought for a title in the UFC and world championship jiu-jitsu practitioner. And his son, Lucas Brennan, is in Bellator. Young guy, signed at a young age, and he's 7-0 in Bellator. He's choking people out like crazy. His name's Lucas Skywalker Brennan. And so I'll put his IG handle and whatnot on the screen and in the description.
And he's got such a great nickname, dude.
Skywalker?
Skywalker is one of the best fighter nicknames I've ever heard.
That's a sick nickname for sure. You could make some really cool memorabilia with that nickname for sure. Mm-hmm. He needs to start walking out with a lightsaber or something. But
Chris Brennan, he's old school, dude. He was fighting in the UFC like with Shamrock and Dan Severn and guys like that.
Dude, he fought for a title against Pat Miletich, I think it was.
Back in like 97?
Yeah, way too long ago for us to have been watching it and remember it, I think. But
it was back when they had that's back before they had the recognized belts, I believe, and they had the like the round robin tournament for each weight. Like Pride had like the open weight Grand Prix or like the heavyweight Grand Prix. Dude, those things used to be so cool in the UFC. Obviously, that was before everything was regulated. Like the first UFC, I think Ken Shamrock fought 2 or 3 times that night.
Yeah.
And so did Gracie. And it was like no weight division, no nothing, no gloves. Dude, that was the Wild West of MMA.
That was the heyday, man. A lot of people now, fans of the UFC and MMA in general now, they don't even realize how cool it was to watch that type of stuff back then, and all the guys in Pride, and where there was like pretty much no drug testing, and you had these monsters fighting each other, and some people in the UFC that people even know about, like a Chuck Liddell or a Rampage or people like that, they fought in these other organizations first, and some of their primes were over there. I think Rampage's prime was not in the UFC.
I think Rampage's prime kind of
maybe right when he crossed over.
It peaked when he was in the UFC, but after that second Vanderlei knockout that he took, he started to flourish as a fighter. I remember he had that freaking slam on Ricardo Arona.
One of the most famous
if no
highlights.
one's seen that, watch it on YouTube. That guy picked him up off the hand and slammed him.
Over his head. Boom.
And what's funny, dude, is the other guy who got slammed in a fight like that was Fedor. Kevin Randleman slammed Fedor, and then Fedor 30 seconds later submitted him. So.
Yeah, hey, that shows you how, you can be a beast, but sometimes skill will get you, even if you're not the more beastly fighter. And Randleman, good Lord. I mean, the guy was probably on every steroid possible to look like that, but he was an animal.
Huge animal. Former UFC champion, too. R.I.P.
Yeah, rest in peace to him for sure. Legend. The bleached hair. He was the bleached hair black guy before. All the guys now have done it.
He knocked out my favorite fighter. He knocked out Crow Cop.
Crow Cop.
I'll never forget that, because Crow Cop came back and submitted him in a guillotine choke in like 45 seconds in the rematch.
Yeah. Yep. Dude, Crow Cop's he was a beastly dude who was super technical. That you don't see that often. For sure. Well, hey man, that's UFC 276. It's always a pleasure doing it with you, Charlie. Y'all go check out our Instagrams. They're always in the description, and Lucas Skywalker Brennan's Instagram. And yeah, we're out.